I don't know. I mean, it's like, I haven't slept a normal day in 6 weeks.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Let's see. Last night it was, what time I go to bed? God. It had to be 6:30 by the time I fell asleep. And I woke up at 10 o'clock.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Normally it's like an hour and a half or 2 hours. What?
How are you feeling then? Do you feel
I feel like I'm in a submarine. Either that or I'm getting off a spaceship every morning when I wake up, and it's like I'm totally discombobulated. It takes me a couple hours.
wow? I can imagine. But then do you feel like you're like functioning throughout the day? Or
Yeah, I'm having these spurts in the last 3 or 4 days where I'm doing some work, creating some videos, and just playing around. Yeah. So
awesome.
there's moments, and there's other moments I'm laying on the couch, staring at the ceiling.
Yeah.
How about you?
It sounds familiar what you're saying. Well, I'm sleeping more than you, luckily.
Hmm.
Uh, but it's, I'll say the last 2 weeks has been like really a bit of cocooning.
Hmm.
But still, like not like being inside in a cave because it's summer and like I'm out in the nature and I'm being in water more because it's obviously possible now in Norway to be in the water. So I'm doing that, but it's really like shutting out a lot. Like I feel I'm almost like on a boot camp, energetically speaking. Like there's a lot of information coming in, and there's a lot of programming just having to be released, and really having a look at what's pieces left of my own bullshit. And
That's really the only way you can describe it.
yeah,
It's the truth. It's it's beyond everything else. It's just like you can't get away from it because
yeah,
you keep being shown things at a deeper level, and you got to take unity consciousness to a deeper level, and it's every perpetrator, every virus, every vaccine, every mask, every mother-in-law, every it's everything. It's every single thing. You can't get away. You can't get away. It seems from becoming aware of your own bullshit.
yes, exactly. And letting go. I think
Yeah.
we're really learning that as well, that we have to let go of so much in order to be free.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a lot of programs and beliefs and identity structures and all of that, which is what has been keeping us imprisoned, and that we now understand with everything going collectively, that we need to strip away in ourselves and go through in order to actually gain that freedom and to be free of our own bullshit, in order to change and to actually have all of that energy freed up so we can create the new.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds right. And the last few days feel like that. It's not like all day long you feel the same way all day. It's like going from one dimension to another.
It is.
And I don't know about other people, but for the last 3 or 4 days, I'm not like 8 to 5, but I'm getting into this creativity. I guess work in a way, but it's not really work, but it's seems to be, like
Yeah,
makes well. So I don't know. Um, it
it's it's changing throughout the days. It's not anymore like you're waking up and you're feeling like, oh, this day is going to be like that. It's like, okay, this moment is like
yeah, like
this.
la di da,
See
la
how
di
next
da,
hour is.
la di da. It's going to be a la di da day. So you're doing, I think, probably a, a couple of videos a week. I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
You've been doing that for a while. It's good. Allison just said she loves your energy updates, and
thank
they, Yeah, and they are good, and they're very interesting. Yeah, if you know, take the time to listen to them. And you've been talking a lot about, well, not a lot. You talk about a lot of things in your channelings,
Yeah.
but one of the things I think you've mentioned it 3 times has been Australia, and then in particular Queensland.
Yeah.
And because Morgan's there, and knowing a bunch of other women that are like there are flying around it. It's like something, and I had an activation with her about a week ago, and I saw, I saw her at the spot she was at in Queensland, which is near the water. I saw 3 points in the water and 3 on land. They were all women, and they all had pyramids, including Morgan. And
Yeah.
it was like Pleiades, like the 7 sisters. So when I saw your last video, I didn't watch it. I don't think I watched the last one, but it mentioned Queensland specifically in the title.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I had a couple of things I was going to ask you about that before we moved on to other things. So in terms of like what you're getting from it, because I know it's kind of been a surprise to you, is it like concerning grid work?
Yeah. It is. It's it started, I'll say, gradually over 2 years. I've been or Australia started coming in, but it's really been over the last 7-8 months that it started really strongly. That I was shown the map and I was shown specific points, and then it's been more and more and more. And now that week prior to putting out a video where I mentioned Queensland specifically, I was constantly, like several times that I've been taken to Queensland. I've never physically been in Australia, but I was taken, to different places, and I will recognize it if I would be there at some point. Really been taken on a sightseeing. And then it was made clear to me that this is Queensland, and like a lot of the energy I'm seeing is in triangles. There are different spots, and the energy is moving in different triangles. So what I've been receiving is that it has to do with both the energy coming up from the inner earth and the energies that are coming in. So the grid is shifting, and the grid is shifting all over the earth. But in Australia specifically, now I don't as Australia is what I've been receiving the most about. Of course, it might be as strong in different points that I have not been receiving. So this is just, what I've been receiving. But it looks to me like there's sort of an initiation or a start in Australia. So I have been expecting things to sort of ramp up there as well in the physical again. Because it's almost like this. I started receiving the messages about relocations and like sudden shifts happening for people there, because the points in the sort of structure energetically, like the node points, are shifting. And so people that are anchoring the energy, but not only anchoring in the old way we talked about it, about anchoring the universal energies, but also bringing up the energies from the inner earth. All of this would start shifting how the energy is moving, because the energy is not moving in the old structured pattern. And so people will be moved around in order to sort of shaking up that old system and get a new structure in place. And then I was shown Queensland specifically in a triangle. I'm not sure about the third point, because I get very clear messages as to when I'm sort of allowed to watch the map and look for it, and when I'm just going to see the overview. But I know Tasmania as well has like one of these lines going from Queensland, and then there's one other point that I'm not completely sure about
What was the first point? Where did it go?
Queensland, Tasmania.
Oh, Tasmania.
Yeah.
That's funny, because our friend from Tasmania is now heading to Australia, to Queensland.
Jeez.
Yeah, Yvonnya is.
Ah, yes.
So,
Wow.
and I remember the first video you mentioned it, and I remember you saying, "I don't know what this is about. I really don't know. I think you were saying like I can read the energy, but I can't really tell, something to that effect."
Yeah.
Um, and then I remember you even said, "So if you have this kind of stuff going on and you're in Queensland, don't worry," something like that.
Yes. Yes. Because
Yeah. So
it looked like it can be really intense. Like I can just only imagine how it will be to be there physically because it looks really, really intense energetically.
wow.
Um,
It feels
but
like some type of vortex, and like you said, I'm sure there's
yes.
a lot of them. There's got to be, but I don't know. There's like something to be said for like certain places with the energy of like Sedona or Ayers Rock, um,
Yeah.
or other places that just come up with that same energy that resurface.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is what I saw with Queensland, that the energy is really moving, and it's moving really, really strongly, really fast. And it's sort of a central point with what is happening energetically with the whole Australia.
Yeah.
And the other night I was kept awake. I have no idea, but often I get the Australian stuff on Australian time, which is during my night, and they keep me awake during night. But a few nights ago, it was like 2-3 hours where I was just taken around different spots, also up to Papua New Guinea, and also the north of Australia.
Yeah.
Um,
Papua New Guinea's not too far from. Yeah, I mean it's pretty close from Northern Australia.
yeah,
Yeah. There's a
so it
place up
feels
there.
like
There's
there's
a
more energy moving or more happening more north now.
Well, that's interesting because I was talking to Morgan last night, and there's a possibility she could be going to Cairns. They pronounce it Cairns, but it's Cairns,
And
and
where's that?
it's in that same place you're talking about.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, but I mean, and there's other people that have lived there, like Mary Rodwell. She lives there at I think it's called Surfers Beach. I don't remember. Um, Kirsty Lee. I mean, in northern New South Wales and Queensland, there's just a lot of people that live up there. There's a strong representation. I mean, if you look at the Soulogy demographics, I think it's like 3 of the top 6 or 7 cities or metropolitan areas.
Yeah. Yeah, like what I'm being shown as we're talking now is that it's that area in Australia is sort of like an anchor. It's like there's there's a lot of energy that needs to be held there while this restructuring is going on around, because it needs to be sort of one point that is like stronger or is more anchored, while everything else is getting reorganized, and it's getting reorganized there as well. But it's like there's more energy, like it's more, it's not heavy in a lower frequency sense, but heavier like in weight, like
Yeah,
it needs to be
yeah,
held in order to not be too chaotic, or in order to really hold the energy. So
yeah,
there's a need for more energy to be really held down, sort of,
yeah,
or not
yeah.
down.
It feels very collective.
Yeah,
Like there's a collective team there. I feel
yeah,
that. And when I saw this, when she took me through this activation, and I saw what I saw. Each, well, it started with a octahedron that formed from 2 triangles where she was, and a third one. Well, it's hard to explain. It was like a triple octahedron, and then the other ones showed, and then the other ones did it, and they all formed whatever that would be, 7 octahedrons in a giant sphere. And then it just expanded. Yeah. So to me, it was like an anchoring, like holding things steady as the chaos deconstructs, maybe.
Exactly.
Like
yes, exactly. Yeah. And my third eye is spinning like massively as you're talking now. It's like,
well, you're obviously connected to it.
yeah.
You'd have to be. You'd have to be. I mean, it only makes sense. And I remember when I first met her, I knew that area. And then I had different, I don't know what you would call them, like future memories or galactic memories, seeding the earth. And there was kind of like a base in Australia, but, and I know all that stuff is metaphor and code, but still, one of our friends down there, Monique Hendry, we did that. They just came on and talked, her and Yvonne and Morgan, myself late when it's like 5 o'clock in the morning over here. And I was still up and, but she was, it was the session. We did the proxy session and we put that up and Monique was the proxy and she was talking about how there was like a zippering of polarities and it felt very feminine and almost, and I could picture like the grid, like what you're talking about. There's a lot of energy. The grid's been set, the new grid. And in order to, keep it fortified, that's the anchoring you're talking about. And I see it like they're threading the grid. To reinforce it while it's, because obviously there's a lot of chaos in the air, not just there, but everywhere.
Yes, it is. And it's going to be more intense, is what I've been receiving.
Now, do you get like global type intel, or is that what you're referring to, or you just Australia global?
Yeah.
A lot of people have made that comment from what they're getting, and it's kind of hard to get a picture of what that might be. You look at the way everything seems to be heading, at least what's being attempted, and it's so obvious and so inept and so stupid that you almost turn your back on it and go, that's just impossible. That's impossible. That to have that level of control, you know what I mean? And then you think of natural catastrophes. What do you feel?
I feel like what I'm receiving constantly now is so I don't receive like specifics of like this is going to happen or this person or this country is going to do this or this, like not specifics in that sense, but I'm seeing a lot of really intense energy. So I see things in energy. So type rage, anger, like I see these like waves moving. And that looks rather intense. I see like what I keep guiding me to now. This is not because that's the one truth or the one way to do it, but I'm really being guided to not go into all the rabbit holes that we can go into. There are people that are supposed to do that because they are supposed to bring it up and to dig into specifics. So it's nothing wrong about that. There are people to do that, but I'm like what I'm being guided and what I'm being told to share is to stay really, really present because there are so many narratives, there are so many storylines, there are so many fear structures on both sides of the polarity. I
agree. And too much light's as bad as too much dark.
Yes.
But I mean, like energetically, I totally appreciate what you're saying. I can't. That's what I mean. There's people say that it's going to get rough. We're going to have a lot of chaos, and it makes sense because that's how all of our transformations have been. It's been chaos to the transformation, but and that's why I was saying to your point and the way you explained it is, I don't think you could, regardless of how it looks it's going, or what it looks like they might be presented to us, however you want to put it. I don't think we really know, because the field of potential in its entirety is expanding every single day. We're all expanding. It could be we could have another dimension fully integrate with us tomorrow, and the whole world changes. I mean, we don't even know. So
exactly, and that's what they're telling me as well, because that's really, really important. Most of people that have already awakened, like having to put a label on it, have done it through challenges. And if we go expect that it has to be chaos, that it has to be challenges, that it has to look really dark and really difficult, that's what we will create as well. So that's why being really aware of our beliefs also around that is really important. And the more we can be really present and be just with what's right in front of us, because distractions is what will pull us the most out of balance, the most off our center. That's when we get pulled into fear, or we just distract ourselves with whatever we normally distract ourselves with, all the things that will be happening and that is happening in the collective. If we go to that and we start preparing too much for all the possible potentials of what might or might not happen,
yeah, that's right,
then we are not staying present. And then if we're not present with ourselves and in that energy, we are not creating either. And they say that even though when you feel like there's no creation happening because everything feels like nothing is happening, that's when the potential is really huge to create. Because if you then actually are in your center, then you can just,
well, and see, it's energetically that speaks for itself, right? And then you find out there is not any chaos. You have to go through the chaos to see the chaos in the face until basically, I guess, integrate it. I don't know.
And that's why being centered, because if you see like a really strict energetic pattern that has been kept in place for a long, long time, with all this control, with fear, with manipulation, everything, right? And then this is starting to breaking down and crumble, and it looks really like it will look incoherent, because all the energy is starting to just like float, because it's coming out of this stuck pattern that it has been in. If we then hold the new and we focus on creating the new instead of increasing that incoherent pattern, we will help that energy coming into balance quicker, which is what I think is happening in Australia now. It's that beginning of creating that new coherence and the new way the energy is moving.
It's almost like it's the womb of the earth or something, like it's it's energetically, I can't really put it into words. So knowing you're obviously very, very galactic. Actually, like all those that I'm speaking of and thinking of over there. But is there like an indigenous or aboriginal feeling to what's going on there, or even to other intel you're picking up about the earth in general?
It's interesting you're asking, because the Aboriginals came in that other night I told you about just a few nights ago. I saw them once a few months back in the winter. Just all of a sudden while I was walking in the forest, and I just heard something behind me, which I didn't in the moment realize was clairaudiently, because it was completely real, and I turned around and then I saw them coming running.
Now, were they apparitions, or was it third eye apparitions?
Yeah, they were, but it was obviously, I mean, they weren't physically in the Norwegian forest in the snow, but I heard it, and I turned around and then I saw them with my third eye. They came in now a few nights ago. They did. And then, but that's quite new to me. Now, the Native American is what I've been the most connected to. I remember sitting with my principal guide, which is a Native American chief. I remember sitting with him during my birth because I left my body during my birth. So I remember him like back from then, and he has always been with me, and he has materialized in front of me in my kitchen as well. So there's absolutely.
What's his name?
I don't know. You told me, and I would love to know.
I love those guides that come in and you're like, what's your name? Does it really matter? You know,
Exactly,
like,
exactly. I have a memory of a life as a medicine woman in the rainforest, and I also have a memory of a life in the Andean mountains. Yeah. I also had that was a really tough one to to re-experience, sort of. I don't know
it gets
which
pretty hot. It gets
tribe.
pretty hot over there, doesn't it? Is that the part you referring to that was rough because it was so cold?
No, that was another one that I re-experienced just a few months ago, all seemingly out of nowhere. But it has all been connected to that feminine energy because that experience was, I'm not sure which tribe it was or where it was, but I was preparing some sort of a ritual, a ceremony, and then there were other people attacking the tribe, and then I experienced being raped, and I re-experienced the whole thing. But I'm not sure which tribe or which type of indigenous people that was. But I have a huge respect for indigenous people. I've also received, that was probably around a year ago, that the indigenous tribes all over the earth have been really, really important in keeping the energies in the inner earth connected to the surface. So what I saw is that I've been working with the elements, of course, a lot that has kept sort of the circulation of energy in place, but also in their like drumming and in their dancing. It's on like their dancing. I was shown almost like an acupressure on the earth that
Yeah,
has been keeping that energy from the inner earth and really been assisting through all of these years that we
that's a
have.
good point. That's a good point. That's the real shit. You know,
Yeah,
that's just like these women that have been doing this stuff for years and years quietly. I mean, regardless of what's going on with the, um, well, exploitation is a light word, you know, with the indigenous, the aboriginal, they have kept this going. This is beyond oral history. This is actually like natural instinct, like natural connection, like it's something they never let go of in their cultures.
exactly.
And had that not been sustained, who knows what would happen?
I don't think we would have been where we're at now, being able to do this shift if it wasn't for them.
Yeah.
And
The,
I really think it's important for people today to recognize the importance of the work they've been doing, even while being
yeah.
persecuted, and like they just kept going, and it has had a huge importance
Yeah.
for the earth. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. A couple of things like in you bringing up that past life that was difficult. One of the things that's been kind of weird in the last 2, 3 weeks when all this really deep, like you were talking about earlier, this deep everything comes up. There's a lot of things coming up, and some of the stuff just comes in and goes, comes and goes, comes and
Yeah.
goes. Um, but some of it, not a huge amount, but some of it, a significant enough amount, I'm going to say 10%, 15%, has been like the not so pleasant stuff in the human experience, like war, battle, hand to hand combat, sexual assault. I don't know how it's been presented has just been like images and stuff, and I'm wondering, I wonder why this is all coming up. And every now and then one will grab me, and I'll go, "Oh, that's what that feels like," or "Did you ever do that?" Or and you have these questions. You know what I mean? It's I don't know. There's a lot of clearing going on. It seems like it's happening several times a day, or moving that direction where you're having these elevations like you were talking about earlier. But that's one of the things that's been coming up for me.
That's really interesting. Very interesting, because I think I mentioned it in one of my last videos as well, been shown with the feminine and masculine, that it's really for both now. I mean, of course, with both genders having both energies. I
Yeah,
always
yeah,
that,
yeah,
and I mean, yeah, but a male incarnate masculine with masculine energy and the feminine, that the masculine or both are now coming into empowerment, into the strength in another way. The masculine through its vulnerability, because when the masculine really rests into or leans back into that vulnerable place, and from that place can emit that strength,
hmm.
that strength is like, it's a whole different world than that distorted push
Yeah,
type of
yeah,
energy. And for the feminine, it's really about rising and finding her voice from that really grounded place within. And I feel like what you are referring to now is a bit what I went through in February, March, with a lot of the feminine aspects of being persecuted, being raped in past lives, like all of these types of things suddenly coming up and then leaving. It's just like coming to the awareness, you're feeling it intensely in the body, and then it's being cleared, which has been things that have, for me personally, held back my strength in the feminine energy, for
yeah,
me to be able to embrace and ground more into the feminine energy, and then now really more than ever being asked to speak and to stand from that energy, and the masculine the same, from that vulnerable place. And then it makes sense with what you said, that you're seeing all these things that are really hard, because now you're sort of able to feel the emotions of it and see the whole picture more than that distorted image of it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot to be learned even from one image. I mean, you get yeah, feeling it, integrating it. Uh, Sometimes when I look at these things, I'm in awe that we've done all these things. And some of this is coming from the what's the how do you say this? Some of it's coming from the awareness and the relationships and connections that are occurring with the multiplicity of the human.
Yeah,
Not the multi-galactic and all that. I'm talking about the human bodies, the makeup of the human.
yeah,
And like the body itself as a standalone, communicating as its separate consciousness. And so, for instance, that's an example. Like I'll have something happening in my body. I'm like, what's going on? It's almost like it's talking to me, like it's poking. Like, hey, like I'll get a tinge or a twinge in my back, and then I'll go there, and then this thing will show me, right?
yeah,
I mean, some of this feels like it's just bigger than all of us, and we're aware of it, but it's happening. It's happening. It's becoming more obvious every day in
yeah,
our personal, experience.
yeah. And it's really important, I think, to do that now, because we also have the choice to distract ourselves from doing what you're doing, because instead you could distract yourself from it. You could just do something else, or avoid it, or numb, or whatever. And that's where it's so important that we actually make the choice to just take what comes up now and stay in it, to actually do those clearings, and to really be in that space to create the new through the chaos, and
Mm.
not be taken sort of down or pulled off by the chaos.
Yeah, and then tying everything back into Everything we've been talking about. So this thing in Australia feels to me, I feel like I have a ringside seat.
Yeah.
Very, very feminine.
Yeah.
And overall, that's what I'm seeing as well. Um, and there's been a lot of talk about masculine, feminine, but I like the way you described it a while ago, because there's no way that that feminine energy could do what it's beginning to do very quickly and very loudly, unless it uh, had the support,
Yeah.
enough support of the polar, because if there was any type of too firm, too much force, right,
Yeah.
it wouldn't work. So it had to be just right. And I feel like that maybe this is what's happening.
Yeah.
And what you went through in February and March, I think that probably was significant as well for a lot of women in particular. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's definitely a when you got 4 or 5 women uh, that basically have a car driving around a country as big as Australia. You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
Wow.
this is, and I know this is happening all over, because I met several people at Soulogy Fest who were doing the same thing in America. I
Yeah.
mean, there's something. This isn't like the '60s where teenagers buy a van and they all just start traveling around the country. These are, you're talking about 40, 50, 60, 70-year old people
Yeah.
acting like kids. Something's happening.
It definitely is. It definitely is. And the whole thing with the relocations, I started receiving messages about that, I think back in December, that it was energetically relocations were being prepared,
Yeah.
and that having to do with the moving of the energy on the surface of the earth. So it's both the grid connected to Gaia, and I see another energy layer as well, which is sort of between the humans. So both of those are being reorganized.
Okay, so there's the human energy level, there's Gaia's energy level, and then there's one in between Gaia and the human. Is that what you said?
Yes, I see those.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm just picturing that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's yeah, that's that. I can see that.
and that's what's sort of bringing that whole coming together and having to do, because that's what I was shown then, was that there would be a lot of relationships forming and breaking, and shiftings, because there's these soul families, or what we call it. It's always difficult to put into human words, but will start coming together, and that's why all of this is reforming. So when this energy pattern between the humans start shifting and people are relocating and there's new connections and there's shift in the energies, that also will help those to connect in the physical the coming years.
Yeah, yeah. Everything's being reformed.
It is. It is.
Everything is. I mean, that's the crazy thing too. Is it's like what you give up comes back in a bigger way
Yeah.
if you surrender purely. It's weird. It's crazy. It's crazy. But
It was
I
great formulated. Yeah.
yeah. Um, but I feel like that. I don't know. I guess it would be what June. God, June was crazy. But yeah, I don't know. In the it seems like what occurred in June and the first part of July um, has, I don't want to say passed, but the downloads completed, then the integration and all that other stuff. It's kind of landed. I guess just in time for a full moon.
Oh my goodness, that's true.
Isn't there a full moon?
Yes. Yes.
What about like the 8/8 gateway? Do you pick up anything on the 8/8 gateway? I know that's a big day.
I've never received any specific of that date or any other dates
I got you.
in specific. But as you're mentioning it, I have been receiving a lot of things or visions with or regarding fiery energy and lines lately, and that expression, really.
Fire and lines. Yeah. Yeah, that
Yeah.
resonates. Fire, that's all I've been. I don't see things like that. I don't know. But I remember just saying this summer's going to be all fire.
Yeah.
And then the lion thing, I can relate to that a few times.
Yeah.
I wonder what that is. So do you get out in public much? Do you pick up on people in the community? Uh, like, because you're in northern Norway, is that right?
No, I'm in Oslo, so it's in the
Oh,
southeast.
you're in Oslo.
I'm in
Oslo.
Oslo.
Oslo. That's a lot of people there,
Yeah,
isn't it?
for being in Norway, yes.
Yeah.
But
What's it like?
internationally speaking, it's a small city.
Right. So what's it like out there? Are people chill? Are they doing a lot of restrictions and mandates? What's going on?
Right now, it's pretty open.
Mm.
It is. So we didn't start with masks until November last year.
Hmm.
But now we don't. It's only on the public transport, and if you are closer than 1 meter to a person. But I almost don't see people with masks at the moment. A lot of people getting vaccinated.
Really?
A lot, yeah.
Because I would think that Norway is pretty progressive, like a lot of free thinkers. They seem to be pretty progressive over there. I don't know.
Yeah, we also, I would say, Norway like to be, the good boy and the good girl in class.
Oh,
So it's a bit of both. We have elections coming up in September.
hmm.
So does Sweden. So but it looks very different here than, for example, in the US, because we don't have the two-party system. We have a bunch of parties. So it's
Yeah, yeah.
not at all comparable to the elections there. But yeah, I'm really curious as to how things will be in the middle of August. The schools starts again because now it's summer holiday.
Hmm.
But it's people are very focused on, I would say in general, the vaccine, giving them freedom back, and being the whole taking responsibility for everyone type of mindset.
Well, I mean, there's to each his own. I mean, that to me, I mean, it's like if it's out there, then people should have a choice. But it's interesting because it's actually happening everywhere.
Yeah.
Because if you look at a progressive, the Nordic countries have always been progressive
Mm.
in a good way, like in a liberation type of way, free
Yeah.
thinking. But they're also, it's a social government. So there's a lot of dependency and, in terms of like, whatever. And so that's some leverage. That's pretty good leverage and pretty good training. So,
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter where you're at. It's there. And obviously, as we proceed, knowing that things are energetic, I just wonder, how do we, I mean, we do grid work, we do shadow work, we do rituals. A lot of the stuff that we've done over the years, I think, is instinctive and intuitive. I wonder if we're supposed to do something in regard to that threat that's actually not a threat. I don't know.
Yeah.
That was just me pondering. You don't have to
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
Go on to the next. Go on to the next.
No, I'm thinking like the guidance I've been receiving now. What I'm really, really clear about my choice uh, on that, and I'm not going in like because my take on it is different than most people. I don't go into any discussions with people on it. Like I'm very clear on
That's
that.
good.
Like, I respect
That's good.
others for
Yeah.
their choice, and I
Yeah.
demand respect from them for my choice. And if not, we can talk about something else, or I leave the conversation, because I'm not here to convince anyone else, and I'm not here to be convinced or people trying to convince me of anything else. So I'm just really, really clear on that. It's not what I want to spend my time on and energy on with people in general.
If anyone would like to know what the new energy is like, that divine feminine energy that's being anchored, just go back and listen to the last 60 seconds. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Thank you.
And you made me think about something that's even more important. Morgan actually mentioned this to me the other day. Oh, a little bit tired. But anyway, it was you don't have to say anything. That's a sovereign right too. Like if there is an issue, we really don't have the right to ask somebody, "Hey, what are you going to do?"
Exactly.
It's nobody's business.
No.
Right? I mean,
I have a lot of people asking me like, "Oh, are you choosing to do this?" And I'm saying, "No, I'm not." And then they say, "May I ask you why?" And I say, "Of course, you can ask me why." And then I just say that this is my choice, and I have 2-3 sentences I say, and then it's like they understand from my energy that there's nothing more to go into, because they have a different opinion and a different standpoint, and it's just.
Well, and I guess that's where I'm struggling is because I mean, obviously you can't go out there and do all the flag waving and the histrionics like when you first wake up. Oh my God, did you know the government did this but there has to be a way to consciously approach it.
Yeah.
Where there's more than one person doing it.
I think as with everything else, like you can't put things over someone's head. You can't you can't change anyone. They have to choose it. So if people know that that's the place I'm coming from, if they want information, they can come ask me.
Yeah.
I'm not putting things on them if they don't want to. And that's the same thing I demand back.
Yeah, it's not the issue. It's our judgment of it and of those, right? I mean, so it's kind of a fine line. But just as you said at the very top of the show, everything comes up, and I guess that's part of it too.
Yeah. And I think, when it comes to that, like that whole need of, because I've been seeing that both in, things I've been observing and also in sessions I've been doing, like that whole old programming with guilt and having to explain and make sure that the other person understands your point. And you can just be honest. Like we don't have to go into all that programming or, just trying to make it so that maybe this other person might understand, or it's my responsibility if this other person understands or see my points. It's not. My responsibility is to speak my truth.
Yeah.
And to do that honestly without any, if I'm apologetic.
Yeah. Minimal.
From guilt, and then I have to deal with where that guilt is in me and to resolve that. If I'm attacking, I'm also coming from a charge point in myself, and then I need to look at the energy underneath it. If I'm not in those polarities, I can speak my truth, and I'm not responsible of the other person, how they're receiving it. And I do demand a respect for how, like my point of things, as I also respect others.
Man, I don't want to mess with that energy. But that's what it is. I mean, I've seen it. I see it more and more and more, and that's great. But I think my answer is going to be on questions like that from now on. Whatever I want it to be. Like, what are you going to do? Whatever I want to.
That's good. That's
I mean,
awesome.
really, because what you're saying is you're speaking your truth. This is what's happening, especially with these women. And it's not a lot of words. It's straight up, and it's loving and all the stuff that it needs to be. It's just like, boom, this is the way it is.
It
But
is.
the world needs that.
Yeah.
The world needs that. It's been, a lot
And
of
I can
smoke.
say for myself, like I've been so apologetic in my way of being and in my way of communicating my whole life, because
Yeah,
I've taken the responsibility of how others feel and also felt the emotions of others, and the
yeah,
whole picture of that, and just really having done all of that work on the guilt and on that responsibility and of all those layers that it was anchored in within me, makes it so that I can actually stand in that in a whole different way now than I've been able to do earlier in my life, because I'm not being pulled off center if people don't like it, because that's not personal, because I respect them as well and I don't make it mean anything about me. So it feels like it feels very different, and it feels pretty good to be more in that energy than I've been earlier in my life.
I think a lot of women can identify with you. Um, do you, were you an overgiver, would you say?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And do you feel like you've come into alignment with not overgiving and obviously not overtaking? Do you feel like you've come into some kind of, okay? How long ago do you feel like you kind of got to the point where you weren't doing it anymore and you were speaking your truth?
I think it's been very gradual since 2012, but mostly really like the groundedness I have in it that I feel now has really been sort of cementing the last couple of months, and maybe even last couple of weeks even more.
Yeah.
Um,
Was
yeah.
it, was it, I mean, was it hard at times? Was it scary? Was it lonely? Was it,
Yes, I was like in 2012. I collapsed and I was in and out of hospitals, and the whole health thing has been a huge part of my journey. And I then had to. Well, it was chronic fatigue and Lyme disease, and so I needed my body to shut down because I wasn't able to say no. And then learning to step up and start to say no, and then not being eaten by the guilt, that has been like you know one of the biggest parts of my journey, I would say. And it has been very difficult, clearly, but it feels really freeing to not hold so much responsibility of what's not mine,
yeah.
and
Oh,
also really take the responsibility of what's mine, because that's
yeah.
also free.
Well, you can do that when you don't have all those strings on you.
Yeah. Yeah, you can. You can.
So, have you discovered any unconscious programming lately? Any blind spots come into view?
A
Yeah.
couple of them.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing how that can continue to happen? But I guess what's happening is um it's there, it's always coming in, but we'd always been looking at that or him or her or whatever, the
Yeah.
boss or whatever.
Yeah.
And now when these things come in because they're jolting us, we know it's about us, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
something
And then that
something.
makes it feel much safer in the body as well. Because when, like for me, for example, in that feminine energy, and really be able to sort of rest into that nurturing, really comforting feminine energy feels much safer when I also, from that energy, can, stand in my strength. So it feels like it's like both aspects, like they don't feel so separate or so far apart anymore, because it's sort of like it's coming together. And with the programming, there's still like there's so many. Sometimes I get just really happy when I'm having like a small program coming up, and it's not this huge one that you see that, oh my god, this is like one main program, and then it's like 98 other programs underneath it. So when it's like one of those that are not, those huge ones, I'm just like, yes, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's remove this one. But it's a lot now, I feel, about detachment, and then, dissolving things, and getting really back to that trust and that strength, and that presence, and like whatever is underneath all distractions, or the need of distractions, or
Yeah. Distractions are big.
yeah.
To me they are. I don't know about other people, but all day long, every day, because they're going away one by one. And
Yeah.
I've changed a lot of things in my lifestyle, and there's still a little, like a group of 6 or 7, and they're not horrible. Yeah, it's just they're there, and they all actually are the same thing. So it's what you said earlier, about not getting distracted. And but
Yeah.
at the same time, I like what you said too about the feminine. Like, I know there's a part of me now that can live with these 6 or 7 distractions that have been a part of my life, along with a whole bunch of hundreds and hundreds of other ones. But I can actually sit with it, not judge myself, nurture the detachment, nurture the break or the transformation, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. That's
But
so important, that
it's the
self-judgment part.
huh?
That's so important, that part of the self-judgment.
Yeah, yeah. That's been a big improvement in my
Yeah.
for myself this year, and I think a lot of things that we were. Well, I don't know. I don't want to say something like that, because then I sound like I know what I'm talking about. But for me, over the past few weeks, seems like it really nailed down everything from about February, March.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Almost like if the year itself were a day in the life, like the first 3 months would be like when a download's coming in, you get kind of groggy. It was like that,
Yeah.
right? And then it hit in, say, March, and then it, I guess, finally, it's integrating now, just like a week ago, 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago.
It feels like it's been really since February, just like, oh, February was like this, and then like, oh, these 2 weeks were like this, but it's really like it hasn't stopped. It's just ongoing. And this with distractions, I was shown that there's like 2 type of main distractions.
Really?
So it's like these personal distractions, which is like when you're going to do something and there's something just, the phone calls, or someone starts talking to you on the street, or you stumble upon something, or you like all these types of things that are, I was told that this is sort of ramping up, like there's getting more of them. And this, every time you get distracted in those types of personal distractions, it's use them as a reminder to come back to you, get your focus back,
Yeah.
because it's really a training.
Yeah.
And then there's these like bigger collective things that are distracting. And then they told me, when it's those types of things, when that distraction is here and they want to take your attention to this thing, always look at what's going on the other side that I don't want you to look at.
Yeah.
These are
That's
2
it.
very different type of distractions, but really being aware of both of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like what you said too about training,
Yeah.
because like when I hear things or feel things, if I sense any judgment, and it doesn't matter if it's like I feel like I'm being judged or I'm being judged, because it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
I just really take my time with it. But
Yeah.
but I don't know. Some things just seem to be happening. A lot of things,
Yeah.
expanding or anchoring or clarifying or understanding. There's just this whole thing happening,
Yeah.
and I see it happening to a lot of people.
Yeah, it is. And I think it has a lot to do with like standing, like to be able to anchor and to create this new energetic pattern, the new grid, the new, with the connections between the humans as well. And to be in that creation of what's coming whilst the collective and the world looks like it's in chaos.
Hmm.
Because if everyone is pulled off center and into all distractions, there are no one that will create the new. And so
That's
that's
right.
why we're really being called now and really being like, I've like, boot camp, as I feel I've been lately, that it's just like really coming back to that self-trust and getting off all distractions and coming back and looking at, the things that are coming up and seeing that and really trusting and letting go, allowing, and then creating. Because the more of this energy we release and the more we let go of, and the more energy we free up to create, so that we
Yeah.
can actually be creating while everything else looks like it's pulled off.
Yeah.
Um,
Which requires focus, and like you said, if those two types of distractions,
yeah,
if you're not looking at it, then you are focused, right? You can create.
exactly,
Um,
exactly. So
yeah,
there's nothing as powerful for anyone that wants to stop your creation. There's
mhm.
nothing as powerful they can do as pulling you off your center, because then you don't have your energy to focus in a direction. You don't have the
which is
focus
which is
to
our choice. If we decide
exactly.
to, you know what I
And
mean?
that's where the freedom comes. That's
Yeah,
where we
yeah.
become free, when we actually realize that, oh my goodness, this is actually a choice. I can just pull myself back.
Yeah.
I don't have to get pulled into it.
That's right.
It's interesting times we're in now.
Do you want to connect? Do you want to do something? You want to channel?
A bit of light language.
Whatever you want to do. It's up to you.
We can do some light language.
All right.
If you want to receive this, I invite you to just open up to receive. If you want, you can close your eyes. Just breathing into your body, staying really present in your body and with your experience. And keep breathing. Me a o ai nera tu o chuluru in nera ma era I a o ai nera o era ai ra cha o la ka I ne ma era I a ka ra chu ai nera. And keeping breathing. Ro ai ro chur nera tu am aru ai nera chilera nera tu am era tu a. Ro chur era ka ni era ta au era ni amora ni era ta. Ro o era ta I era ni era o era ai ai wa cha o kera ana. Leo ar unirana. Yo a chuliran ni o ara maya ay anira ay an I o aya. Ay ni ayara o alira tay. Ayara tinira
You're all right. Man, that was powerful. Do you normally go that deep? You were like, and you flipped like bam. And then you could tell at the end how deep that was. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really been over the last month, I will say, it's been getting like powerful on a new level. It's
well, you described what the feminine's doing is speaking from that. You said something about speaking from that deepest core place, and that's what it felt like, or that's what to me that's what it felt like. Far out. That's
I
wild.
really feel like the vibration within the body, like just vibrating out. It's
amazing. See, this should be mainstream. Not
should.
Yeah, I mean, how many people are like you around this world? You know, not exactly, but I mean, just they may have a different ability or you know whatever, but that understand what we're talking about, because it's not about being smart or anything like that. It's just about what the hell's going on. And one of those things is these incredible people waking up and waking up to all the gifts that they have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also coming out of the whole comparison and holding ourselves back.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, this is what I'm receiving. This is what I can do. And then, it's just alongside whatever another one can bring forth, and just, just everyone bringing what I've got to the table.
Yeah.
Instead of holding back and looking at each other and, that whole, it's just like, keep going. Just, yeah.
Yes. Well, I think at this point, I guess people can do what they want, but I'm not going anywhere. I want to see what happens. I want to be here when it happens.
Definitely.
It's already happening.
I've signed up for that as well.
Yeah. I have a feeling the next, 17 months. I don't know, 2023 feels totally different to me than this ride that we're on now, although I'm not complaining at all, but it feels very much like getting acclimated, indoctrinated into basically a new way of life, really. A new way to operate. We don't operate the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was an hour off. I was an hour off in my head to ask you to put it back an hour, and I was an hour off in how far back you. Anyway, so I was an hour off two ways, so I was 2 hours off. I mean, these 3D things I just can't do. I can't sleep, and then I start getting drowsy like I am right now, and then I got to do another show. It always seems to work out, but I think everybody's going through this, right? I mean, you said you were.
Definitely.
Yeah.
No, 3 days into my day today, I had already asked people 3 times what day it was.
Yeah.
Is it, no, it's Friday. No, it's Thursday. Is it still Thursday? Because it's like there's so much happening energetically, and the shifting, and everything, that it's shifting so much that I can't imagine all of it being just in one day. So I like, time doesn't make much sense anymore.
Yeah. I feel like a vampire. Staying up all night. All right. Oh, it's good to see you. It was good to see you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you, for putting your videos out. And we'll do it again.
We will. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep on putting that information out. And yeah, good luck on what's the name of your Heart of Creation? Is that the name of your
Heart of Light?
Heart of Light on YouTube.
Both on YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah, Heart of Light on YouTube. There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Peace
Thank
out.
you.